Hello, everyone. My name is Deepan. I'm the director of Snap Financial Solutions. We are a highly motivated and professional mortgage broking firm, and we help a lot of customers achieve their financial dream by finding the right mortgage products for them. Today, we have invited Danny. He's the director of Property Sales Buyer Agency to talk to us about who is, what resulted him to start or being a buyer's agent today, and a bit about himself and his background and what he does. So, Danny, welcome to Snap Financial Solutions. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Deepan, for having me. It's my pleasure talking to people and tell people what I do. It's my passion to help people buy property. Yeah, thanks for the wonderful opportunity you've given me.
Not a problem. I can see there's a bit of a sunshine in the background, so luckily Melbourne is glowing today. Danny?
Yeah.
Good. All right, Danny, if you wouldn't mind telling us a bit about yourself. So probably let's just start a bit with who is a buyer's agent and what is the difference between you as a buyer's agent and a real estate agent?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Buyer's agent, most of them might know, may not know. They're also a real estate professional. According to the licensing, both the buyer's agent and the so-called real estate agents are both licensed to practice. But the main difference between these two are the real estate agent is a common terminology. It's a profession, real estate agent. And under this, you have selling agents and the buyer's agents. So the real estate agent that you commonly see in the offices or the shops that you go around and see, they're actually basically representing the seller. Like someone wants to sell a property, they approach the real estate agent, and the real estate agent put that property in the market, and the selling agent represents the seller. Whereas a buyer's agent is on the other side. He or she represents the buyer. So commonly what people do is when they want to buy a property, they approach the real estate agent or the real estate office that you see at the street corners and ask that selling agent to buy you a property. So what is happening there is the selling agent is actually representing the seller. And you as a buyer or anyone who wants to buy the property is approaching the selling agent and asking him or her to buy you a property. Now, what is happening there is they are legally obligated to represent the seller because they have signed a contract or an agreement with the seller promising them the best outcome. Now, you as a buyer goes into the office and ask them to buy you a property. They of course will entertain you, they will welcome you and promise to buy your property, but then they're not legally obligated to you. Of course, they will show around the properties they have in stock and try to convince you as a sales agent to buy your property. The other important thing that you have to note is within this real estate offices, there are people who have delegated jobs. Like there are people who are dealing with the vendors or the people who are selling the property or the property owners. And there are people or professions within the agency that deal with people who come to buy the property. So what people mistaken is people think that this person who's trying to buy them a property is actually going to represent them in a fair way. In reality, according to the law, an agency that is running or a real estate company or the shop that you're seeing, they cannot represent two parties at the same time. What do I mean? For example, you're approaching a real estate agent called let me not tell the old name, starts with R. And you're going to buy a property, and there's someone who specializes in dealing with buyers or clients that are coming to buy the property. By the law, the company has already signed the agreement with the seller or the property owner. So the company cannot represent you as a buyer.
Right.
So it's illegal. But then they still help you buy the property. So as a buyer's agent, what we do is we are an independent buyer's agency where we do not have any property to sell. We do not have any property in stock. And what we basically is solely and independently, we represent the buyer. So by which the buyer gets the full beneficial and full representation, and we are legally obligated to the buyer. So that is the main difference between what a real estate agent or a sales agent and a buyer's agency is. And you need to find out whether it's an independent buyer's agent, not a company that has both the selling and the buying as their business model. Yeah, that's the key difference that the common person should be looking at when they're when they're finding a buyer's agent in general.
Interesting. And that's a really good insight, to be honest, Danny. So what you're saying is that when you, as a buyer, are going to a real estate agent office, yes, you're looking to buy a property, but really the real estate agent is representing not you, but the seller. So
That's right.
if a buyer is able to go to a real estate agent and buy a property, then why do they need a buyer's agent? So what's the benefit then to have a buyer's agent?
Yeah, this is something that a buyer should understand. Like I already mentioned in the previous points that you need to be represented in any transaction. Like if you are going to the court of law with a case, you need a lawyer to represent you.
Yeah.
You don't expect same lawyer to represent both sides. So you need a representation. Now, when I say representation, the question is for what? So then the question comes, what is the importance of buying a property? It's not like buying a commodity from Woolworths or Coles that you go to the shop and pick from the shelf and you take home. Property is a very important asset. It's an asset class. It's a big investment. You're putting in your hard-earned big amount of money into buying an asset that is going to help you in future. Now, buying the right property is important. Now, if you buy the wrong property and then you are regretting in future, that is a big mistake that you're going to do. So as I mentioned in the previous point, you need to be represented so that you get the fair deal. Like you have a selling agent who's representing the seller, who's trying to get the vendor the maximum amount of price and to sell the property as soon as possible. Whereas as a buyer's agent, I'm representing the buyer or you as a buyer so that I go in and look for the best properties at the best street, at the best location, and find the best price and negotiate the best price with the real estate agent or the vendor. If you're not represented by an independent buyer's agent, I'm again specifying the point, independent buyer's agent, what is going to happen is there is high chance that you will fall prey to the sales techniques or sales tactics of these real agent companies. Because as I said, if you're straight going into a real estate company and there's someone within the office who's helping you buy a property, of course, they are going to help their colleague who's selling the property. So they have a product and the buyer's agent within the company is trying to sell that product for their colleague. So you're not fairly represented. That is why you need to have an independent buyer's agent for you to get the best deal at the best price at the right location, so that your asset that you're buying is profitable to you in the long run.
Okay, makes sense. So, probably a sub question to that, then, Danny. When you say an independent buyer's agent, what do you mean by that? And probably second part of that question, I would say, is what does Property Zeal buyer's agency do for its client?
Yeah. So part of that question, I would also introduce my company, Property Zeal. So we are as I've already mentioned, we are independent buyers agency. We are a Property Zeal company. So we help clients buy properties, as I just mentioned, the right property at the right location at the right price, and and the right property cycle. So there are several factors that you need to look into before buying any property. So we have a set checklist of things that we go through to make sure that the property that we are buying for our client ticks all the points that we have mentioned, and hence we're aiming at buying the buyer the best deal at the best price at the best location, so that it is profitable. So our ultimate aim to buy a asset or a property as an asset is to create profit, right? So that is the main aim, and we consider your situation, your financial situations, and according to, and we also discussed with Dipin and mortgage brokers to come to a conclusion of what should be your budget be, what type of properties will suit your current financial situation, what will be your next step after this property, whether we are looking at a property that is going to produce you high cash flow, or should it be a property that is going to give you a big equity build very soon, and how soon are you planning to build your wealth. So there are several factors that are put into together. We bring through all the puzzles together, then to decide where to buy and what property to buy. And then we go into the research and procurement stage. That is how we choose a location, then choose a property, and then we present it back to the client. And then we help the clients buy the property and help them in the settlement and so forth.
Right. So definitely is what you're saying. You're working through a very thorough process. You got a framework that's set for you to identify the right property for your clients. And just like any other investments, you don't want to rush into buying a property. You just mentioned earlier, property is a growth asset class. With any growth asset class, there is some sort of risk associated. So you just want to make sure that you're minimizing your risk in buying the right property. So that's
right.
really good. Yeah. So then,
yeah, like if I'm not here to tell about shares, and you wouldn't just buy a share just like that. You wouldn't just log in or ask a broker to buy a share just like that. You would make some study. You would say you would go in and do some research. If the company is performing good, what are their future? Is the company going to perform better? Am I going to get profits? Whereas when it's come to property, the common man do not think in that way. They just go buy any property that is available. But we, as a professional independent buyer's agent, we look into the numbers. So we are number driven, we are data driven, driven, so that you ultimately get the benefit of it.
Right. So then there are a lot of property, you can say, advertisers, marketers. The first thing that a buyer would do is jump onto a real estate website to look for the property. How do how do Property Zeal buyers agency differentiate yourself from other buyers agent?
It is a very relevant question, especially in these days. Like other professions, like for example, financials or financial planners. So the building or the property sector, the real estate, not real estate in general, especially the property sector is not very much advanced. It's not very well regulated. So anyone can be a property advisor. So that is what you are seeing. So important thing, there are so many marketers, there's so many sales personnel, there are people who are representing the developers. So it is very important for a common person who is looking for an independent buyer's agent to go through some criteria before they choose who they are going with. So you need to ask certain important questions, like you need to ask them, what is the source of income? Like if you sign up with them, what are the incomes that they're going to get? Are you going to pay the fees, or is someone else going to pay them a commission? So if they're getting commission from a builder or a developer, so that means that they're not truly independent. They're going to represent the builder or the developer. So that is an important question that you need to ask. And by law, a buyer's agent, because I'm a licensed buyer's agent, by law, I need to follow the law. I cannot get fees or commission from two parties. I cannot represent you as a buyer, and I cannot represent the developer and get fees from you and also the commission from the developer. That's illegal for me. But then there are people who are not licensed. They are basically sales consultants who are representing the developers. So they get commission from them. So you need to find out whether they are getting any commissions. And if they are also asking you some fees, that is also not right. The second thing that you need to ask is to ask them, are you a licensed real estate professional? If they are, you can ask them for their real estate license, and you can go to the public registry and check for their license. So we as a property buyers agent, we are licensed, and we are ready to show that we are got a license so that you can be convinced that you're dealing with a licensed professional. Yeah, that is what I basically think you need to be asking, whether they are getting any other commissions and whether they are licensed, and what is their best interest. Is it the other important point we also need to ask is, how are they going to source a property? Have they already, as I mentioned previously with the real estate agent companies, they already have stocks. They have 20 or 50 properties within their stock. And when you as a buyer get in, they will show you all those properties. So you need to ask, where are you going to source? Do you have properties already with you? So if they say, yeah, we have got properties, we have got this many properties, we can show you, that is not the right strategy. So as a buyer's agent, what a buyer's agent is intended to do is to go through your situation and find out what type of property and where should you buy the property, and then tailor the property search and the property procurement according to your needs, not tailoring you according to the stock they have. So that is very important. So you need to find out, where are they going to source the property? How do you find a property for me? So that's some of the important. So point number one is, where do they make the money or get the commission? Do they get commission? Point number two is, find out if they have a license, if they're licensed to practice this. And point number three is, what was the point? Yeah, if they have anything in stock and if they're licensed. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, look, I mean, as I mentioned, and you mentioned, well, a lot of buyers agents, it's just literally flooded right now. The market is flooded with a lot of buyers agents. And the questions that you mentioned, that a potential buyer should be asking the buyer's agent, they're quite thorough questions. So thanks for those tips, I would say, and those questions that our customers should be asking to find that a buyer's agent is independent in the real sense. and is to a certain that he's going to work in your best interest. And look, Danny, we've helped a few customers mutually as well to achieve their financial success. What would you say to our audience? What is the value of engaging a buyer's agent? You mentioned something around the data part as well. You're quite data driven. So what's that? How does a potential customers are able to derive any value from that?
This is a very good question. Like, you should understand, as I already mentioned, you're buying an asset. You're not buying a car where you're going to drive it and the value is going to go down. You're buying an asset that you're expecting to create profits. So why would you not buy a property that is going to give you more profit? Or would you buy a property that knowingly or unknowingly is going to not give you enough of profits? So your ultimate aim to buy any property as an asset is to create wealth. And the wealth is a slow process. You're not creating it in a day or two. So you don't go according to the emotions. You need, as I mentioned, data is very important. There are several factors that you need to see before buying a property. Like, there are property cycles. So there is a growth curve that happens with every real estate markets. So our aim is to buy a property, or a true buyer's agent's aim is to buy a property where it is at the bottom of the cycle, where the property prices of that particular market will soon be going up. So by doing that, what you're exactly doing is you're trying to create equity quickly, like within a span of few months, maybe 6 months, within a year, you have created a big equity, maybe $50,000 or $100,000 in equity within a span of 8, 9, 10 months. So by doing that, what you're actually doing is you've got a good equity that you can pull out and go for the next property. So if you're not buying it at the right time, the right location, at the right price, so the equity building process is becoming very slow. So if you're buying a property in a location where the prices are going to go down, for example, you're buying a property for 600,000 and you bought it at the peak of the market, and in 6 months' time, the value of the property is 580. Now you go back to a mortgage broker, you go back to the bank, asking them a loan for your next investment property, and the bank comes and evaluates your property here and says, look, you've got 600,000 as your loan, and your property is now worth only 580. They wouldn't lend you any more money. But then, so you're stuck. Then you'll have to wait for the property cycle to bottom out fully and then take the upper curve, which might take, depends on the region or the area that you've bought. It might take probably 3 years, 5 years, maybe even 10 years. So this is how people get stuck with property investment. So when you're engaging a property buyer's agent like us, as I said, we are data driven. We try to buy properties at the best opportunity available so that you're creating equity quicker, creating profits quicker, and then move to the next property and the next property. And so why am I explaining all this? I'm coming to the point of the value that you're going to give. Now, suppose you have created 80,000 equity in the first 6 months. Whereas if you would have done it without a buyer's agent and bought a property in a wrong place, as I explained, and your equity is actually gone backwards, negative. So you imagine how much of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars you've lost. So it's not just making profit. It's the value that you consider is important. So if I personally think that buyer's agency is a very worthwhile investment. The fees that you're paying is very much worth. So I would suggest that you go with the buyer's agent. If you would like to come with us, we are here to help you. Yeah, that's the value of a buyer's agent, according to me.
Great. Look, it's a very elaborative and I think a very illustrative answer as well. What I'm deriving from that is that typically a buyer or probably an investor will be thinking of going to a buyer's agent. But I suppose for a first-time buyer as well, it could be a lot of value to engage a buyer's agent if their intention is to build a property portfolio sooner, so that they're making the right choices from the point of go. Great responses, Danny. So yeah, how do people get in touch with you? Really, I'm just asking this question in the interest of time as well. So how can someone get in touch with you? I mean, I know a lot of my customers have already gotten in touch with you, but how do we want our customers to get in touch with you directly?
Yeah, you can either. So our company, we have a free 15 minutes consultation. So going back to what we do, we don't entertain everyone, and we cannot serve everyone that comes to us. So as I said, we assess the situation of the person, and we speak to mortgage brokers like you, or if the customer has got their own mortgage broker, we speak to them and see if they have a pre-approval, if they can really go ahead. We don't want anyone to sign with us and then regret coming with us. So we undergo a strict scrutiny of whether you are really eligible to buy a property at this stage, and what correction you need to do to be eligible for that. So we have a free 15 minutes consultation where we sit together with the client and we see whether you are a right fit for us, and if I am a right fit for you. And only then it's a mutual agreement. And then only then we go to the next stage of our strategy calls and then signing of the agreements. And so for that, you can log into our website. Our website is www.propertyzeal.com.au, or email us at info@propertyzeal.com.au, or contact me on my number. It's on the website. You can book an online booking appointment through my website, which you will find a link on my website page as well.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind just giving out your mobile number, though, Danny, please.
Yeah, 0470 260 379. That's my mobile number.
Yep, so it's 0470 260 379.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for coming on board and joining us today. It's been really informative. The work that you do, or the work that you've done for our customers, and the work that you're doing for our customers and for your customers is just amazing. Definitely following that framework that you have in place, the current process that you've got in place, does help the customers to build a property portfolio sooner. So I cannot thank you enough for your support for our customers. Guys, you got any investment questions, you're looking to buy any, even if you're a first-time buyer, looking at building up your investment portfolio, without any hesitation, contact Danny from Property Zeal Buyers Agency. Thank you again, Danny, and I'll talk to you then. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.